Shalom sisters, welcome back to my channel. Most High in Christ bless you all. I have been wanting to start like this Proverbs 31 sewing series for quite some time now, and I have just been too lazy honestly to get it started, but I feel very like sewy today to set up my camera and stuff to show you guys how to sew on fringes. As Israelite women, this is like one of the least things we should know how to do, just to sew on fringes for ourselves, your husband, your children, another sister who doesn't have a sewing machine or who can't quite do it yet, and especially our brothers who don't have wives who need a little bit extra help. I don't know if I should put my sleeves up or down. So before we get started, let's go ahead and get our materials and our supplies together. So you're going to want to get your sewing machine, whatever sewing machine that might be. You want to get it loaded up with your thread and your bobbin. I would suggest you get a thread that goes with your ribbon. If you don't have a thread that goes with your ribbon, like I'm going to use this kind of royal blue thread, and I don't have a thread to go with that, so I just use a dark blue thread and it looks perfectly fine. So I'm going to show you guys a few ways on how to sew your fringes on. So I would suggest getting something to practice on first, because you want to get a feel, see what works best for you, and you don't want to mess up your garment by I guess you won't mess it up because you could always take it off, but you know what, you just want to practice a few times first before you start sewing on the garments that you actually want to wear. So let me stop talking and let's go ahead and get started. I'm really excited. So the materials that you will need today is something to practice on. I highly recommend y'all practice first. We're going to need some fringes. I highly recommend you use some fringes that you are not going to actually use. You want some practice fringes. So if you want to just go like to Walmart, they have some little inexpensive trims that you could use just to practice, so that you could get the hang of what you're doing. You're going to want to need some ribbon. I use this Offray ribbon. Looks like this. This is my favorite ribbon. This is my favorite ribbon ever, and it's very inexpensive. I think it's like $2 for this spool. And you want to need some thread and a pair of scissors. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is I like to place my whatever I'm going to sew under here just a tad bit first. Okay, so now we're going to grab our fringes and we're going to grab our ribbon, and I'm going to show you the first way to sew this on. So this would just be sewing on the fringe first. So you want to just lay your fringe on the edge of the garment, and you want the bottom of the fringe to line up with the bottom of your garment, whatever you will be sewing. So it will look something like this. I put the bottom of my fringe. This is white, so you can't, you know what? This is white. This is white. I'm going to get a different practice fringe. You take your garment or whatever you're going to be sewing your fringe on, and you want to lay the bottom of your fringe onto the bottom of the garment, if that makes sense. And the fringe is always going to lay this way onto your garment. You want the bottom of the fringe to be facing this of your sewing machine. So you place whatever this is in here, and you just put this down. This doesn't have to be on the edge, doesn't have to be on the middle, it just needs to be tacked down. So that is what we're gonna do. So you're just gonna sew a little bit, back stitch, and then continue to sew. And then let's hypothetically say we're at the end of our garment and fringe. So let's just cut this. This is the end of our garment. We are going to just sew. We're going to back stitch, and then we are going to take this off of our machine and cut it. Now for your second portion, you are going to tack down your ribbon. So you would just unravel some of your ribbon off of the spool, and you would place it wherever you want it. Some people like their ribbon up here. Some people like theirs here. It just is your personal preference. Put the ribbon where you want it, and start at the top edge of your fringe. Of your ribbon. So it matters the second go around when you're going to be sewing your ribbon down. So I like to go at the top, and you just start sewing, back stitch, and sew all the way until you get to the end of the fringe. So when we come to the end of our fringe, this hypothetically will be saying that you are sewing this onto a dress or a skirt. What I like to do to make this look a little bit more finished, I flip this ribbon underneath. Hope this is making sense, y'all. Flip this ribbon underneath. Sorry. And I just get it lined up to where the ribbon is underneath. And I sew down. Make sure you backstitch, and that is it. So this is what it'll look like. And then you just go and sew the bottom. Go forward a little bit, backstitch a little bit, and begin to sew the bottom ribbon down. When you get to the end, backstitch a few times just to make sure it's very secure, and then that's it. And then you will be left with this. Okay, so now let's try the other way. I said I was going to show you guys 3 ways to do this. So I'm going to scoop down a little bit. Okay, so once again, you line up the bottom of your fringe with the bottom of the garment. This time we're going to sew our ribbon and our fringe at the same time. So what I like to do is I get my fringe and I loop my ribbon right around the fringe like this. I lay it where I need to lay it with the bottom of my fringe on the bottom of my garment. I push it through, and this time we are going to change our setting on our sewing machine to a zigzag stitch. I use the Project Runway Brothers sewing machine, so that zigzag stitch for me is 4. So I changed mine to 4, but whatever your zigzag stitch is on your sewing machine, that is what you want to do. So let's go ahead and lower our needle. And I'm going to just cut my fringe where I want to stop. Okay, but don't cut. I'm cutting because I'm only doing a small piece, but if you were actually sewing a garment, you would cut at the very end, okay? Cut at the very end. Okay, so now we are going to, go ahead and begin to sew with our zigzag stitch. So you want to back stitch on a zigzag as well. When I first learned how to start doing fringes, this was my go-to right here. Okay, it's fast and it gets the job done. Again, when we get to the at the very end, we want to tuck our ribbon underneath our fringe and sew down. Okay. This is why you want to use a thread that is the exact same color as your ribbon. But this is what you will have. And from far away, y'all, okay, you can still see it, but whatever. So far we have the 2-step method that we use here, where you sew your fringe down first and then your ribbon. And then we have the zigzag method where you sew the ribbon and the fringe at the same time. And now we are going to sew the ribbon and the fringe at the same time with a straight stitch. So once again, we place our ribbon and our fringe together, loop the beginning, and lay it flat onto whatever garment you're going to be sewing on. Make sure that your machine is set on the straight stitch. Lower your needle into the machine. Put your fringe with the bottom of your fringe with the bottom of the garment and begin to sew. And you just want to make sure that you're lining up as you go. Okay, when you get to the end of your garment, you want to cut your ribbon a little bit longer than where you're going to cut your fringe at the end of the garment, because you want to leave that room to tuck it underneath. Okay, then you want to tuck your ribbon underneath the fringe. Okay, my ribbon is a little bit too long. Tuck your ribbon underneath the fringe and then finish off your stitching. Okay, now you can take it off the machine and go ahead and do your bottom row of stitches. All right, when you finish off, make sure you back stitch, and then you will be all done. So this is how that looks, just like the first one, just minus one step. You're just doing one step instead of two steps, really. So there you go, your 3 ways to sew your stitches on. They look nice. You can't tell which one is which. They all look nice. So now I'm going to show I cannot say, I get tongue tied. Now I'm going to show y'all how to sew it like on an actual dress or something like that, because I know that with this you can't really get the gist, but I wanted to just show you guys the different types of ways to do it. Now I'm going to show you on a actual skirt or an actual garment. So I have been meaning to sew some fringes on Yedia's cute little Puma shirt, so I am going to do that. I got my fringes, I got my ribbon. I got this ribbon on Amazon, I think for $10. This is 50 yards for $10. Get you some right now, Amazon.com. No, this is not what it is, sponsored. I ain't got no affiliate link, wish I did, but go get these fringes right here, 10 yards for $10. Please believe me, Chainette, go get them. I'm gonna leave the links in the description box. Yes. So let's go ahead and do this on an actual garment. So I like to put my ribbon in my lap, get what I need, and I like to put my fringes in my lap. Remember, you want your fringes to be facing this part of your machine, and I always like to start at these side seams. Wherever I have a seam, that's where I like to start sewing my fringes. So take my fringe, take my ribbon, and all this extraness, if it starts to fray like this, I just clip it off at the end. So I wrap my ribbon. You don't need that much wrap. Wrap my ribbon around my fringe. Lay this on that seam. It's good to put your presser foot down and your needle in place, and then you can start to line things up so nothing slides out of here, because if you just put your presser foot down, it could slide out and then you would have to tuck and all that stuff again. I like to put my needle down so I can get everything lined up exactly where I want it, and then I just start stitching. And now you don't want to pull here, because then whenever you're done stitching, it'll shrink back up and then you'll have those very, very wavy fringes. So you just want to let the machine do the work and kind of just guide it, but don't pull on it. Okay, I like to keep my finger at a stopping point, and when I get to that stopping point, I like to line everything back up again. And then put my finger, my stopping point is always here at the very edge of my machine. I like to put my finger here and sew up until I get to that stopping point. And when my finger hits my presser foot, I like to go back, line everything up again, put my finger here, and continue to sew. Okay, so when we get to the end where our first stitches had started, I hate this extra like glare on here. I'm really, really sorry. Definitely apologize. Oh my goodness, that just made such a difference. I'm very irritated that I didn't do that at first. So when we get to the here, I like to lay here and I like to gauge about where I want to cut my ribbon and my fringe. So I cut my ribbon about here. And then I cut my fringe a little to where it's overlapping where we started, because I don't want any gaps in my garment of fringe. Okay, so I just tuck this underneath. I lay this right on top. And then I just sew. I'm going to sew over where this ends onto where we first began, just a little bit. Then I back stitch from the beginning to the end. Hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say. And then I go ahead and stitch a little bit more and back stitch a little bit more, and then we are all done. All right, so now we're gonna go with the second row, and the second row is always easier because you already have everything laid down and you can just zip through the second row. You just want to make sure that all of your fringes are going in the same direction, and you just want to sew it down. So we are all finished. This is what it looks. Okay, hold on. So this is what it looks like when you're all done. Your stitches look very neat. There's nothing crazy out of place. It just looks very neat and professional, and we are all done. I would have him come and try this on, but he's sick right now and he in bed. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was very, very helpful. If you have a suggestion for something that you would like me to make on this little mini series, leave it in the comment section